Wonderful. All right, thank you so much. I'll be leading the meeting tonight. Steve was unable to make tonight's meeting. So I'd like to call this meeting to order. And I don't think that there is anyone here for public comment. Is that correct? Okay. All right, so at this time, I'd like to ask if we can approve the minutes from January. Okay, were there any concerns about those minutes or anything anyone would like to address at this time?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Second.
Fantastic. Thank you. Okay,
I'm
all
not
in
sure,
favor?
Brian, excuse me, I'm not sure, Brian, as ex officio, you can make motions. It's a little bit.
You're absolutely right.
I'll make the motion.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you very much.
Second.
That one
Thank
slipped
you.
by me every once in a while.
Well, we appreciate the energetic way that you did so. So thank you. All right, seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Did you get the second, Rosemary? Or, sorry, I missed it. Okay, we're good. Okay.
Okay, great. All right, so those minutes will be considered approved and we can move on to subcommittee reports. Are there any reports at this time from the subcommittees? Cynthia?
So I don't think the subcommittees met. I know that Steve is still trying to arrange some meetings with businesses. So I know he was trying to do that before he left, but I don't think he got a chance to do that. So I know that's on his radar.
That's great. And is there still that on the list of the businesses that have been approached and the ones that we're looking to approach, Cynthia?
Yes, so I have John McGuire's notebook from way back, and then I have the list that I've sent out a couple of times, so.
Great, thank you. All right, is there anything anyone else would like to report at this time from their own committees? Okay, all right, staff updates.
A couple of things, so and I'm going to bring Dwight in, put him on the spot briefly, but Steve did send an email out to Dwight about some of the feature stories that we talked about, which is somewhat related to what I just mentioned. So I don't know, Dwight, if you had a chance to look at that, or if we're sort of too far into the semester to possibly get some assistance from students.
If the structure of the experience is for a class or for credit bearing purposes, it would probably have to wait until the fall. But if there's some financial compensation associated with it and it can happen outside the bounds of UConn altogether, it could get started right away. I have names of 3 students who I think would be, good for this. But I also think that it could be, undertaken in the form of a credit bearing experience, which would save the town some money and I could supervise it. So I don't imagine that a great deal of money would be required, but some kind of reasonable compensation for the time is basically what would be asked for. So that's all I have, because I had a really busy week and I didn't have a chance to get back to Steve, but I did give the matter some thought, and it really depends on, honestly, what the leadership's position is on, whether it'd be best to make it a something that would have some financial compensation attached or not. But I think this is extremely doable. I think it's actually really a good idea, because I think that by having UConn students do it, it sort of plugs those 2 communities together. And insofar as those communities depend on student traffic for their business, it makes sense that they should be the ones promoting them, I think. That's all I have.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, I mean, we do have sort of the line item in the EDC budget of about $750, and this might be a good use of some of those funds.
Yeah.
I'm just popping that up now. I haven't discussed it with Steve or anything, but
Okay.
that's a
Yeah,
possibility.
I mean, and of course, it would depend then on whether a student was willing to do it for that. So, I, maybe, yeah, I mean, I guess my question would be, what's your timeline to get this done? Because this is the sort of thing that, really it shouldn't take too long, but, coordinating between student schedules and, business owner schedules could take a little bit of arranging. Steve left it pretty open as far as the timeline in the email that he sent to me. So, yeah. So what were you kind of thinking about that, I guess? As far as when do you want these done?
I do think it is kind of open. I know it's something that he's been talking about for a while, because we had talked about, trying to be, and a couple of folks from here, I think whether it was EDC or another group, just being positive too. And,
Yep.
especially before we had some new businesses come in, over the last, 4 or 5 months. So I think it's fairly open. I know Kathleen Patterson, our senior communications manager, wanted to potentially help with a little bit of a template too.
Yes, that would be
So,
very helpful. That'd be very helpful.
yeah. So I think it's fairly open-ended. So I can talk to Steve when he gets back next week, and Kathleen will be back as well.
The other option would be I mean, if you or Steve or someone else would be willing to spend some time filling out some paperwork. I could talk with I haven't done this, but it would seem to me as though I could talk to the Center for Career Development and see if they could set up a summer credit bearing. I have a very good relationship with them. I've done a lot of work with them in the last few years. So maybe they could do something over the summer. There, it's going to depend on whether the student, is resident of the area or is willing to travel back here. But I'll tell you what, if you can look into that template and the
Mhm.
timeline, I will reach out to the Center for Career Development and see if we can set up something over the summer. Because that sounds like that might be the best option. The semesters, I mean, it's over. Students are already working on their final projects. It's
Yeah,
probably not a good time to try and bring someone on, but when we look ahead to the summer, I think there might be some possibilities there.
great. Sounds good.
Okay.
And then I just had a couple of other things, Kristen, and if I'm repeating myself, I tried to look back at the minutes, so hopefully I'm not. And I know we had this update with a couple of partnership groups, but I think since we met last, we had the Connecticut's Countryside Business Forum and social. So several people here were there, and I think it went really well. We had Tim Liptrap, who's a management professor at Nichols, talk about AI. And that just really set off a lot of interest. A lot of people followed up with Tim. He gave some demos. And then we had an update on CT Visit and how businesses can potentially get involved with CT Visit. To get listed on their website. And then we had we had a tour also at the UConn Innovation Partnership Building, and then we went over to Hops 44. Nancy hosted us for a great social. So as follow-up, the Connecticut's Countryside team has met, I think, twice since then, and we're looking at doing maybe a 4-part series in the fall on AI from about, I think Nancy, we said like 8 to 10 in the morning. To do something to really expand that to people. So I don't know. I know I'm trying to think who was all there. I know Nancy and Brian were there. I'm trying to think who else was there from this group. But if anybody had any other comments about how it went or.
It was a terrific time. AI is kind of spooky in some ways. But it was a very interesting building as well, and the social was a hit for sure.
Yeah, I thought it was an incredible, informative all around. And if anybody has never been to that building, you should try to go and tour it. It's incredible.
Yeah, they're very open to hosting groups there. They reiterated that. So if anybody knows of a group or, you know, if we ever wanted to go over there, the EDC, I think that's certainly a possibility. And then just a couple of other things. We finished up Taste of Towns. We had 11 businesses, restaurants, food establishments in Mansfield participate. Many thanks to Nancy for participating. We sent out a survey. We've gotten a couple of responses back from restaurants. And we're gonna do, we had a little bit of a debrief with the staff team, and we're gonna work over the summer to see where things go for next year. So Andy Goot, who owns Stone Row, he's taken on a position. I mean, he still owns Stone Row, so he won't be as involved. So we have to figure out how that works, because he took on a pretty heavy load staff-wise to get information out, and so we have to kind of determine how that's going to work going forward. But I think all around it was positive. Again, Nancy, if you have certainly want to hear any of your comments.
I thought it was excellent. It was a nice time. We got some increased business. It was nice to see new faces. I didn't get to get out to any place. Because I'm just, you know, too busy here. But the time that we did get out and we all met as restaurateurs, and that part of it I absolutely love, you know, because we're all in the same boat together.
So thanks again to Nancy, and I know Brian visited a lot of restaurants.
He did.
And
So
thanks again to the marketing of it was great. I felt like it was everywhere. I felt like I knew what was happening and when it was happening. So I thought it was really well advertised this year.
oh, good. That's good to know. Yeah, we'll let Margaret and Kathleen know. Yeah, I think that, and Andy as well. That's great. So tomorrow is the deadline for the Taste of Mansfield Champion Award. So this again is the award that Taste of Mansfield, which is an initiative of the EDC, gives to a producer, educator, grower, probably missing a couple of those groups, but I think, Rosemary, we have 6 applications, which is along the line of how many we normally get. And Dwight, I know you're keyed up to help us with that once we call on you. So we're gonna, Rosemary and Margaret in the town and I are gonna meet hopefully next week and arrange a time for the review group to meet. So, you know, exciting to have people still interested in that. That's been a good initiative. And then the last thing I had was, this group had talked about some of the ARPA money for arts relief. And so we've been working on the public art trail, as I've mentioned, in Mansfield Center. So what it looks like right now, we have 3 artists. One of them has submitted her final proposal, which is a sculpture with a garden in front of, if you know, I think everybody knows where the library is, but in front of the sort of white fence along Route 89. The second one will be a sign project with native plants, native animals that will sort of walk people from the trail near the ball fields up to close to the library, and we're waiting on a final proposal there. And then we're working with the Mansfield Elementary School to look at doing a mural potentially on the fence that's near the new playground. So I think it'll be a nice mix. We're kind of using the flora and fauna, natural, sustainable theme. And so we're really excited. It's been a little bit, it's taking a little while, but I think it'll be a really nice element and something that'll be attractive to residents and to people visiting.
That's
So I
great.
think that's all I had. I know that's a lot of information. If anybody has any questions or comments.
That's great, Cynthia. Was there a lot of interest from artists to participate?
Yeah, I think we received, I want to say 10 or 11 applications.
Are these going to be permanent exhibits?
Yes.
Okay, so are we planning in the future of actually expanding the trail? Maybe, down into under Route 195, that portion of Mansfield Center, maybe connect that and make it a longer trail or
Yeah, we looked at potentially doing something up near and I'm forgetting what those fields are near the general store, probably near your way, Brian. And this seemed to be a little bit more is it Common Fields? That park up that way?
Yeah.
So possibly, this is all, it's based on what funding we might have available, because we'll be using, pretty much most of the funding that we receive for or the town gave for this project.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for all the updates, Cynthia. Are there any questions?
I have a completely naive newbie question that I don't know if this would have any bearing on. I don't know if this is a cultural district question, if that's coming later in the meeting, but it seems to me one interesting way to like link the downtown to the trail system is to build a sidewalk from the corner of South Eagleville and Stores Road to basically down to Sticks and Stones. Is that something that because that would connect a whole bunch of trails, including like the trails off of like behind the historical center, the Moss Sanctuary. Is that something that's ever been given consideration as far as linking together that little kind of commercial area with some doctor's offices and those businesses and store center?
So that may be a question for Brian. I mean, we have the sidewalk that does go down to Liberty Bank. And then it, as you know, it pretty much ends there. So I don't, there's definitely been conversation about the sidewalk from campus up to Four Corners. That's
too,
definitely
yeah,
been
obviously,
discussed.
yeah.
Yeah, and there's, I think Congressman Courtney got part of the money for that recently. But I don't know, Brian, or if anybody
I
else.
haven't seen any proposals of any walks heading in that direction. Not to say that's not a bad idea, Dwight. Um, how far is that distance? Do you know offhand?
It's about a mile and change from the Liberty Bank.
Yeah,
In
and now we're
fact,
gonna be hooking up, when we get down to Sticks and Stones, what will we be hooking up in that area?
well, you can connect once you get to the Moss Sanctuary, you can go from the Moss Sanctuary connects to the trail system that eventually links up with Bicentennial Park. But it's kind of hard to get there going through all the trails. So a sidewalk down Stores Road would actually connect the businesses more directly to like the Bicentennial Park trail system over there. And I'm trying to think what the trail system is that links over there. I'm sort of drawing a blank at the moment, but there are a few trails that have trailheads right around that area.
Yeah, I'd be looking for a trail link to Mansfield Center or
Yeah.
Mansfield Hollow or.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't, I mean, I don't know enough about it to be making any proposal. I'm more just thinking about, those kinds of connections as ways of connecting some of the commercial centers and the student where a lot of students live with the downtown, whether that would be helpful. I mean, as far as, evening traffic is concerned in particular.
People of town are looking for bikeable, walkable Mansfield, so
Yeah.
actually I think this may be the time to throw it out there. I can bring it
Consider
up.
it thrown.
And Dwight, you could write a letter to town council as well.
Yeah, thanks.
And if my memory serves me correctly, and that's questionable, I understand, but I believe that trail that leads to Liberty Bank, that was an initiative by Representative Haddad a while ago. So I believe that was funded through the state. Cynthia, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know why that sticks with me, but it was a project from a while ago.
Yeah, I think you might be right. I mean, it wasn't part of the development of Storage Center.
Mm-hmm. It was something separate. So even maybe asking him also, what what means or what was applied for at that time, that might be a good idea, and see if there's something that could be applied for again
Yeah.
to increase the length of it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that totally makes sense since it's a state highway, but, you know, my thinking on it was that, you know, when people go out, you know, to restaurants and bars and things like that, you know, the option of walking dramatically increases the likelihood that that happens. And insofar as all of the population that lives right around Store Center are students and thus below drinking age, you know, it's not as important to them. So, but for the larger kind of community of residents, of which I am myself one, you know, it's a consideration. But anyway, I think I've derailed us for long enough. I'm sorry to have done so. But
that
thank you
might,
for
that might
entertaining my
link into
suggestion.
the, cultural centers too. If you have a cultural center, historic center and one down at Mansfield Center, you know, that might help along with that as well. Dwight, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dwight. We appreciate the question and the discussion. Thank you. And speaking of, are there any updates on business openings and closings in Mansfield?
So we don't have any major updates since the opening of the Fresh Monkey, which was over at the end of January. We don't have any major openings or closings, but I think Cynthia has an update on incoming businesses downtown.
Yeah, so we're hoping that Huskies will open in the next couple of weeks. So I know they have their furniture and so I think they're trying to get open as soon as possible, especially during March Madness. So I haven't heard a specific date, but that's one that's I think imminent. And I don't know if anybody else knows of any openings or closings.
Cynthia, any word on the inn, on the Spring Hill Inn?
Yeah, so Kathleen has been in touch with Barat, but we're still waiting to hear from him. So unless anybody else knows, I know he has the sign up, but I don't think they're there yet, that they're ready yet.
And the businesses in Champagne Motors, it looks like they're finally moving forward with the construction on those. I think they were gonna do 2 drive-through restaurants there. Any ETA on that?
I have not heard anything on that.
Okay, anyone else see anything going on in town? All right, thank you. Any housing updates?
So I think since our last meeting, the moratorium was extended to August 31st on multifamily development. There have been, I don't know if I would say if they're in, I guess they are draft regs, which is partly what needed to be done during the moratorium. So those will be coming to the EDC. I talked to the Director of Planning and Development, Jennifer Kaufman, today. So they will send out a referral, not just to the EDC, but you know, all the relevant town commissions and committees. So we should probably see that, I would think, fairly soon. And that will probably go to the Development Project Review Subcommittee first. We haven't, the group way back when they were looking at regulations, that subcommittee spent quite a bit of time looking at draft regs. So this would be good for something to come back for the EDC to look at.
That's great, Cynthia. Thank you. Just keep us posted on that, and then we can always make sure it gets into committee as soon as something comes toward us. That's great. Thank you. Any updates to the EDC calendar, Cynthia?
No, I don't think there's anything, you know, major on the calendar for the next couple of months.
All right. right, thank you. We'll move on to our discussion items for tonight's meeting. A big one is our draft EDC presentation to the town council. And thank you so much to Cynthia and Kathleen for the amount of work that they've put into this. Steve and I were able to meet with Kathleen and Cynthia to give our initial feedback. So what we're looking for tonight is to present this draft, get feedback from the EDC to see if there's anything that should be added, adjusted, changed. And your input's important, and that way we can finalize it and have it ready to present at town council. And Cynthia, what's the date on that presentation?
April 8th.
Great. All right. So wonderful pictures to start us off with our presentation. And so this is our annual report for those of you that are new to the council. We give an annual report every year to the town council about the EDC's accomplishments and goals, accomplishments from the previous year and goals for the current year or upcoming year. All right, so we have the members listed on this slide. Please make sure that your names are spelled correctly.
Oh, I should mention to everybody, so Kathleen didn't take, whoops. She's gonna take out the animation, so I just need to arrow down a couple of times here.
Thank you, Cynthia. That will make it easier on that evening as well. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. All right. So on this slide, what you see is the EDC powers and duties. So when it was established, what our basically goals and duties are at this time. So conducting research into the economic conditions and trends in Mansfield, making recommendations to appropriate officials and agencies of the town regarding actions to improve Mansfield's economic condition and development, coordinating activities and cooperating with unofficial bodies, organized to promote economic development in Mansfield, and advertising and promoting economic development in Mansfield. Okay, and here's our mission. So supporting the existing businesses, and what we have listed is supporting changes to zoning regulations that reduce barriers to business growth. Also meeting with local business owners to identify opportunities as well as concerns. And then of course, supporting our new businesses that are coming into town, assisting with grand openings, assisting with press outreach and promotional efforts as well. And then of course, being a liaison between businesses and the town departments. So trying to make it easy for those new businesses as they integrate into our community. And then of course, focusing development in the targeted areas, which are Four Corners, North Eagleville, King Hill Road, downtown stores, and the Southern Gateway. Any questions or comments thus far? Okay, thank you. Okay, and then our 2024 work priorities. So for business outreach and support, ongoing business visits with owners with a focus on the new businesses that are coming into town, preparing feature stories on current Mansfield businesses, providing input on updates of the business related pages on the town website. So we're going to try to make sure we give that input. Providing social media content to the town's communication specialist. For example, those feature stories on businesses, assisting with town events that benefit Mansfield businesses, exploring ways in which the town can partner with UConn to elevate all of Mansfield in their marketing efforts, and contributing to the discussion regarding whether to establish a cultural district in Mansfield. Yes. Oh, I think you're still on mute.
Okay, assist with town events that benefit Mansfield businesses. I get that. We just had a Maple Fest. How did the Economic Development Commission assist Mansfield businesses in that event, for an example?
And I'll be honest that I was not a part of that specific event. Cynthia, do you have any information on any participation through the town with that?
Yeah, so that was a Wyndham Area Chamber of Commerce event. So it wasn't a town event. It was held on town property. I think that next year, if it occurs again, and there hasn't been a debrief on that event yet, so I think there'll probably be more efforts to include other businesses. Nancy was there, Hops 44. Well, I don't know if Nancy, when I went there it wasn't actually Nancy who was there, but her food truck was there. So I think more can be done. It didn't come together until, you know, fairly close to the, not close to the event, but anyway, I think we will do more work to get, or they will, to get town committees involved, nonprofits and businesses. So it was a first start.
Valessa?
I was curious about Maple Fest too, so since Brian brought it up, it moves around every year, is that true?
So it's a little complicated. So for many, many years, and others correct me if I'm wrong, but it was hosted by the Lions Club, I believe in Hebron. And then the chamber took it over maybe 7 or 8 years ago. And then I guess a decision was made within the last year that the town of Hebron wanted to go more sort of local, go back to their roots. And so this, I think, I forget what it was called, Brian, was it the Northeast Maple Fest? So Hebron, as you may know, had their own Maple Fest last weekend, I think, or the weekend after. So I mean, if this location is something that is, that people like the location, I mean, I think Diane Nadeau was very happy with it, then it, you know, could continue. But again, we haven't had a debrief on that event.
So Cynthia, did we volunteer to host or did we get asked to host? How did this?
So we were asked to host. There were a couple of locations that, that Diane looked at initially in Mansfield. And working with the high school, this was determined to be the best location for the logistics that they had.
This was the first year, correct? I thought there was something else that had happened previously, but this was very different, I think, from something in the past.
Yeah, this is the first time this iteration, well, first time, as far as I know, any Maple Fest was held in Mansfield.
And I'm assuming that this might be an event that we do over and over again, I would hope.
Yeah, it certainly could be. And, you know, again, it's the chamber that's leading it. It's not a town event, not a partnership event. But yeah, I mean, as I said, Diane, from what I've heard, I haven't talked to her, has felt very positive about how it went.
It looked like it was pretty well attended, and you had a lot of vendors from New Jersey and New York. I was surprised how far the vendors actually came up to set up shop. It'd be nice to see some more Mansfield businesses directly involved.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
All right. Thank you for the feedback and the question. Okay. Any other questions on this slide? All right. Additional work priorities, development project review. So reviewing the draft regulations produced by the Planning and Zoning Commission's Regulatory Review Committee, providing feedback with regard to potential barriers to business growth and economic development, and of course, reviewing development proposals for endorsement per EDC's guiding principles document. And that's really the role of that committee that takes that on for us. All right, the governance subcommittee, recruiting new members to the EDC as terms expire. 2 new members have been added in 2023. Welcome, welcome. And developing yearly budget priorities. That's the responsibility of that subcommittee. All right, and let's talk about the accomplishments of the EDC for 2023. So with regard to zoning and development, we supported thoughtful, multifaceted development in areas consistent with those identified by residents as the preferred development areas in Mansfield tomorrow, the town's plan of conservation and development. Okay. Okay. As far as business development and support, invited and encouraged additional business representation at town and partnership events. Supported the 3rd Taste of Two Towns, Mansfield and Wyndham Restaurant Week in collaboration with the Town of Wyndham and Willimantic Downtown Neighborhood Association. And it was exciting that we're able to say that 12 Mansfield restaurants did participate.
Yes, I'm sorry. I misspoke earlier. I think I said 11, so that's good.
All right, with regard to implementation of the town's marketing and positioning development plan, securing the front page image and feature story with accompanying full page ad in 2023 Summer Fun and Dining Guide by Connecticut. 10,000 copies were distributed in Central and Eastern Connecticut. Very exciting. There's a full page ad in Jorgensen Center in the playbill for 2023-2024. And of course, continued coordination and support of the wayfinding and signage project. And looking at the RFP process for implementation of the plan. And it was exciting that, we have the construction and installation of the first phase happening. Yes, thank you. I'm glad Kathleen's going to take out the.
I'm like, wait a minute. Did I just start at the bottom? Or
And again, one of our priorities being that cultural district. So looking at describing what it is and reminding the town council about it, as well as what's next. So about the 3 stakeholder meetings that were held in assistance with the Cultural Coalition, and then the staff reviewing input from the stakeholders and meeting with the Cultural Coalition to discuss next steps. So I think this is something that we had briefly discussed last year at the town council, but now, presenting this information, reminding them of this piece, and then also what's been happening and what's next. Okay. Continued focus on connecting low-income residents with local farms, the mini grant program to support purchases of local agricultural products by town entities, continuing public outreach through e-blasts and tabling at different events, and then of course awarding the 2nd annual Taste of Mansfield Champion Awards. And so here we have a picture of 2 of the award recipients. Okay. In addition, participating with that action plan for economic vitality with Bolton, Coventry, and Tolland, so Connecticut's countryside, looking at outdoor recreation, agriculture and agrotourism, culture and entertainment, entrepreneurs and small businesses, visibility and marketing, partnering with regional higher education institutions, and of course, plan administration. Okay. So some additional accomplishments include hosting a successful business forum, okay, at UConn's IPB, and then of course at Hops 44, developing and distributing a promotional brochure, receiving a matching grant to produce a promotional video, and securing a vendor to develop a website and a social media campaign. Okay, our 2024 goals are to develop a website to promote the region, to hold another series of business forums.
I would just mention, Kristen, that so we have a website developer identified, and we're working on a contract with that team right now. So just as an update for you all.
That's great, Cynthia.
And if
Thank
I
you.
already said that, I apologize.
No, you
No,
didn't.
is that the logo that we're gonna be using, the one I see here? Is that? the firm?
Yes. Yep. We've had that for about a year and a half, I think, at
Yep.
least. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's been a consistent one. Continued goals include continuing to promote areas identified as appropriate for development, including Four Corners and the Southern Gateway, continuing business visits by EDC members, and submitting ordinance to the town council to establish a Mansfield Cultural District to support our arts community and serve as a promotional tool for our community. Okay. In addition, continue implementing the Town of Mansfield Positioning and Marketing Development Plan. So the focus is to position Mansfield as a premier destination for visitors. So highlighting our amenities, outdoor recreation options, our diverse dining options, arts and cultural activities that are here, targeting in-state and out-of-state visitors, particularly outdoor enthusiasts, and of course, UConn affiliated visitors, and then building upon the Connecticut Office of Tourism efforts to promote outdoor recreation. These pictures are great, Cynthia. Kathleen shows some great pictures with you.
Yeah,
Are there any ecotourism opportunities in Mansfield? Add that as a bullet somewhere along the line. I mean,
Mhm.
at the Mansfield Hollow Dam and Park and
I'm making a note,
Thank you, Cynthia.
but I think the answer is yes.
okay, good.
All right, and here's our budget proposal. So we're asking for $50,000 to continue the consulting agreement with the Mansfield Downtown Partnership to provide economic development services. $50,000 to continue the implementation of the town's positioning and marketing development plan. $5,000 to support the Taste of Mansfield, which funding covers the promotion, photography, and the Taste of Mansfield Champion Award, and then $750 for EDC memberships, training, and activities. Any questions on that?
The first 50,000 goes, what pool of money does that go in actually in the partnership?
Yes, so we have our the consulting agreement. We're in the third iteration of a 3-year agreement. So this continues that agreement for us to provide those services.
So in whole, we're looking for $105,750.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so our recommendations to the town council are to support marketing activities to promote Mansfield to new business and also to residents, support the continued work of the Connecticut's countryside, continuing to work with UConn on issues impacting economic development in Mansfield, and thinking about how things can be, mutually beneficial commercially and for housing development, continuing to support business growth in Mansfield while preserving our historical and country characteristics, which continue to make Mansfield a premier destination. And then, of course, approving the establishment of a cultural district, which we only hope will continue that business growth and also destination priority.
Well, that's it.
Thank you, Cynthia. Any questions, comments, thoughts?
The only thought I had, and I don't know that it fits in here. First of all, it's great. Thank you guys for doing it. But the only thought is I thought the conversation around a co-working space and going to visit and like just thinking about how to repurpose the elementary schools and things like that was kind of interesting. So I don't know if there's anything to put in a bullet, but I don't know, it stuck out that it wasn't in there.
So thinking about how to use current spaces or
Yeah, something like that.
mhm.
But don't
Now,
I don't
would
need
you
it.
want to make that a goal? Find economic uses for the old elementary schools? Or, I mean, not a bad idea. Would that be in the scope of the EDC? I don't know.
Is that Brian? I'm sorry, Kristen. Brian, is that part of the facilities plan? Looking at, I assume, those schools?
I'm pretty certain that might be part of the facility studies, Cynthia. But that doesn't mean we can't discuss some of that. I
No,
wouldn't think-
no.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Well, it could be, discussion, or provide input regarding repurposing or like current buildings in town, something like that. Where it's not school specific, but
Yeah, yeah.
Right, vacant spaces.
That's a better way
I
of
won't be
saying it.
offended
Thank
if
you.
it doesn't make the cut. I just thought I'd put it out there.
No, that's great. That's a discussion that we've had, so why not? Thanks, Valessa.
I have one last comment.
Go
The the presentation's April 8th. I think I probably said something about this last year. It's the middle of budget season for the council. Yeah, I don't know if there's any way that you could do it in the future, in the beginning or middle of March. We start our budget season March 25th and goes through the end of April. Entails a lot of thought and work at that particular moment for the council, I think. I'm not asking for any change this year.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the April 8th, so, it looks like it's, unless it's changed, the public hearing on the budget at the regular meeting. So it's not it's not the same night as presentation of department budgets. So it may not, I mean, just to let folks know, but I hear what you're saying.
Right, thank you. Well, thank you, everybody. We look forward to finalizing that and being ready. All right. Are there any town Yukon collaboration updates at this time?
The only thing I would say is that sort of our staff team is still meeting with Yukon staff. We met with Pamir Alpay, who's the head of research at our last meeting. And he used to be, so he took President Merrick's position, and then he used to be the head of the Innovation Partnership Building. So we just had a good discussion about kind of what's going on there, you know, what the future is of that section of the campus, and just an open dialogue. So I think we've been kind of meeting with different people. We met with Nathan First, who's now involved in that group, as he kind of took over the town gown role, in the last couple of months. So I don't know if there's anything else there to report.
All right, thanks, Cynthia. What about the cultural district discussion?
Yeah, so where we are right now, we met with, a couple of us met with Ryan with the Cultural Coalition folks. And right now we are looking at, as I think was in the presentation, potentially presenting an ordinance to the town council to establish a cultural district. One of the things that we're working on, and actually Valessa, I think, asked this question too, is if it was part of the EDC and it's a new subcommittee, which is allowed in our bylaws, does that allow us to have non-EDC members? I think that was the question, Valessa, to be on that subcommittee, because right now the EDC, the way it's structured, doesn't meet all the requirements either. So, although, well, anyway, you have to have an artist and you have to, you know, so there's several criteria that you need for that. So that was something that Ryan was going to check with the town attorney on, I believe. And then the coalition folks are also looking into that with the Office of the Arts. I just found that out today because that's come up in a different community as well.
Thanks, Cynthia. Is there anything else we should be doing at this time?
I don't think so.
All right, great. Any other questions for Cynthia on that topic? All right, Cynthia, you always provide us with great information on how we're being highlighted in the media. So it's always exciting to see the different articles that there are on the different businesses in town. So thank you so much. Any comments or special things that you want to share on those at this time?
I don't think so. Yeah, Rosemary, I give her different things, but then she also finds articles, as well as Kathleen. So I've got to give Rosemary some credit. So yeah, lots of good stuff, lots of good promotion going on over the last couple of months. So that's great.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, I had just pulled that up, so I lost the agenda. There we go. All right. Our next regular meeting is scheduled for April 18th. And I know that is during school break. So if we can let Cynthia know if that's going to be an issue for any of us, that would be great. So we can plan ahead that way. I know Mansfield's typically a week later than most other districts, so.
And I am out that week. That doesn't mean that you can't meet, but I will be on vacation that week.
Kind of means we can't meet.
What's that?
It kind of means we can't meet.
Right. I would say
We
that's
appreciate you,
fair.
Cynthia.
I'll talk to Steve, see what he says.
When Steve gets back, we'll confirm with him, and then we can make a plan for April. That sounds good. All right. Any future meeting topics that you'd like to add to the agenda for next meeting, when that will be?
Bus around ecotourism.
There we go. Anything else any members would like to bring up at this time?
I'll just say that Dwight, if you take on anything on sidewalks or walkability or trails or biking, count me in. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, more of that, the better. I mean, the Stores Road corridor just chokes off so much possibility as far as connecting trails and commercial zones to other residential areas. I'd like to see more of it. So yeah, I'll keep you posted.
I'll join in on that group.
Great. All right. Would anyone like to motion for us to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. Anyone? Second? Thank you, Brian. All right. All in favor? All right. Enjoy some basketball, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a great night and have a great month.
Thanks a
Bye-bye,
lot,
everyone.
Kristen, for sharing.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great job.
Thanks,
Cynthia,
Lucy.
can I steal you for a minute?
Sure.
Thanks,
All
I
right.
appreciate it.
Thank
Bye,
you both
Kristen.
very much. Bye.
Thank you.
So Cynthia, I just realized like 10 minutes ago that there was something I forgot to tell you before I left the office. The guy who runs maintenance and stuff for the Oaks, the one who calls you.
Ryan?
Yes.
Okay.
He stopped by, or he has some questions for you about dumpster placement during turnover. Sorry.